Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so start off with Double JK Ranch. Would you like to come to the podium, please?
Good evening.
Evening.
I have reviewed the draft resolution that was emailed and have no requests, changes, anything to ask.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Did you have anything further to add, or no?
It seems very complete.
Okay. Thank you. We received one or two correspondence
Two.
from
One
after the
from
meeting.
Mr. Kuchar, the noise,
This one?
and one from Mr. Navarro.
Because we had set a deadline for, what was it, noon on Thursday, the 14th, right? Okay,
I believe so.
that sounds right. All right, so I'll read these. Frank Cortine, Chair, and Board members, Town of Dover Planning Board, from Joe Kuchar, 21 Northeast Mountain Road, October 12, 2021, regarding the Double JK Ranch Hunt Club. At the last public hearing for Holland Valley Homestead, I learned the Town of Dover noise ordinance / noise level at the property line is 60 decibels. I'm assuming this threshold would also apply to the proposed hunt club as well. I've invested in a sound level meter to self-monitor noise levels from neighboring Double JK Ranch Hunt Club. I received this advice on Saturday, October 9, 2021. It's a read R8060 that is highly accurate within plus or minus 1.4 decibels. I have not yet monitored any shot noise levels from Double JK Ranch, as they have been on their best behavior related to shooting while awaiting approval of their special permit. On Sunday, October 10, 2021, I sat on my front porch and monitored noise levels from neighboring hunt clubs. The shot noise levels observed in this study were for the most part lower, were for the most part, yes, lower than the threshold of 60 decibels. Shot noise measured were from a much farther distance than what I will hear from Double JK Ranch. If 60 decibels is in fact the noise ordinance at the property line, based on the test I conducted, I believe all shot noise from this club will exceed 60 decibels. That is probably why Double JK Ranch has decided to exclude the practice trap, the 5-stand, and the flurry station from their application. They didn't want these shooting stations to affect the approval process. Should the planning board move forward with an approval without realistic noise testing, this decision should not be in question if true noise levels are known. I ask that further investigation be considered. I don't think it's too much to ask, and anyone else in my place would feel the same way. Please review the attached video of noise level monitoring.
I wasn't able to bring in the video because it was done with Chrome or Google. It just didn't come through.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see the video.
All right, and then we received this from Richard Nanarello. Additional letter from Richard Nanarello to the planning board regarding the application from the Double JK Ranch for a special permit for hunting operations. Okay, dear Marilyn, I'd be grateful if you could please convey my attached letter. Okay, so then there's a photo of
That's
something.
the way it comes over.
Okay. The photo was recently taken by me from my front door looking towards East Mountain. Towards the right, fields 6 and 7 of the ranch are in view. That's okay. That's how it looks. I mean, that's
That's how
it looks.
it
Okay. Parts of field 4 is in view. The group of houses is in the middle of the photo. Okay.
Is there one beyond it, Ryan?
So maybe, yeah, let's see.
Minimize and see if it
Resembles anything?
I mean, it looks like trees.
Yeah. That's all I see. Willow trees.
Those look like willow tree. I'll take your word for it. Okay, so then the letter is really this. Dear Mr. Courtine and members of the planning board, so the reference is application for the Double JK Ranch seeking a special permit for hunting operations. So, dear us. This is an additional supplement to my 2 letters dated October 24 and September 16, 2021, and my email message dated September 28, 2021 on the reference subject. I will avoid repeating what was already expressed in these past 3 communications as not to diminish the important points made. As known, the sound of the discharge of a shotgun is a mini explosion and supersonic sound wave that travels quite a long distance, i.e. up to 2 miles, depending upon the ammunition, weather, and temperature. Sound travels faster when it's cold. Typical blast from a shotgun generates a shock wave with a sound pressure of 150 decibels or louder. A crack sound is caused by the sonic boom that occurs as the bullet projects through the air at a supersonic speed. As known, the choice firearm for the ranch are shotguns, which have a decibel range between 150 and 165, depending upon the barrel or caliber used. Sounds at or below 70 decibels are generally safe, and any sounds above are considered unhealthy. Okay. Loud noise above 120 decibels can cause immediate harm to hearing and undue stress and anxiety to the shooter and people in the city. As known, the ranch is seeking to increase its membership of hunters, hence there will obviously be more gunfire across its land every day. It is seeking to have a maximum of 12 shooters at a time. Therefore, decibel levels / unhealthy noise pollution mentioned above from one shotgun would be increased exponentially when 12 people are shooting at the same time. And the decibel level / noise pollution will be increased furthermore if the gunfire is directed towards East Mountain, where the sound waves will reverberate or echo across the valley. I am pleased that some recent progress was made by the ranch's temporary withdrawal of its request on the application for skeet shooting activity in their station on East Mountain. The decibel level / unhealthy noise pollution of gunfire does indeed increase exponentially when the sound waves reverberate off the mountain. Also, it is appreciated that the ranch has proposed shooting zones further away from mine and the group of houses property lines. This will make it somewhat safer for me and my visitors to use the eastern portion of my property. In my email message dated September 28, 2021, I had extended an invitation to the board and its consultants to visit my property to perform a sound assessment, for which I believe is crucial to determine the decibel level of receiving the sound of gunfire from my vantage point. To date, no one has contacted me for this purpose. I am disappointed. This invitation remains open. I believe the appropriate test would be to place a sound meter at my front door and have 12 people placed and spaced at locations within the proposed shooting zones across the ranch and have them engage in frequent and rapid gunfire by using shotguns. After the leaves have fallen, there will be less natural screening from my vantage point to the ranch. I have attached a recent photo from my front door looking easterly towards the ranch. One can view fields 6 and 7 and a portion of field 4 in the distance. Albeit a beautiful view, there is no natural screening between these points through the year. An analogy that I propose to use to better explain the position of my house vis-a-vis the ranch is by comparing this environment to a Roman amphitheater in a concentrated format. The theater is shaped in a semicircle with the stage in the lower center, where it is surrounded by raised and tiered seating. My house can be understood as being located on the stage surrounded by the high-tiered seating, which can be understood as the ranch. Place yourself on the stage and imagine 12 people spaced on the top row firing shotguns. It would be very loud. The point of this analogy is that a sound analysis of the position of my house vis-a-vis the ranch cannot be accurately measured by a linear textbook method in this dynamic environment, since the noise reverberating exponentially when there are 12 shooters. How much more we have? Okay. Also, please be aware that I'm very sensitive to gunfire. In my life, I have faced some scary experiences due to this dangerous activity. Moreover, I have a cardiac condition that can be aggravated by stress and anxiety caused by this form of unhealthy noise pollution. I lost a job in Iraq because of a similar situation. I seek peace in my retirement and do not want to live next to a potential quote-unquote battlefield. The right of quiet enjoyment and to a healthy, safe, and habitable environment for the descendants of the original owners of this farm, the Benson family, living in the group of houses, and for myself, a property owner for over 30 years with a new retirement home, should be paramount. We are not in favor of having an active hunting club to be overlaid on a peaceful farm. This would be injurious to us. However, I do understand that the ranch owner, like myself, has the right to privately shoot firearms on his property in compliance with the town noise ordinance and New York State law. Please forgive me if I'm repeating, but I would like to emphasize my belief that this application should be denied for the following main reasons. One, over the years, the ranch has displayed a pattern of unbecoming behavior by not following protocols and by disrespecting the property rights and safety of its immediate neighbors. Moreover, on numerous occasions, it has violated New York State law mandating a 500-foot distance between gunfire and a dwelling with impunity. This substantial level of behavior, responsibility, and accountability does not reach the very high bar required to engage in potentially dangerous gunfire activities by non-resident visitors over a wide scope of open land, i.e. 0.85 miles. This substandard level of behavior should not be rewarded by the town. If it does, it will set a precedent. The overlay of an active hunting club with frequent and rapid gunfire for up to 12 shooters at a time on a farm that is benefiting from an agrarian property tax assessment is unwelcome by most of its immediate neighbors due to unhealthy and nuisance noise pollution and safety concerns. If approved, it would be a burden for the town to frequently monitor the activities. It's not my place to police this activity. I believe the additional noise pollution in the valley would be unwelcome by most of its inhabitants, deceiving now since the gunfire on the ranch has paused. 3, as known, most of the topography of the ranch is fairly open land, climbing the side of East Mountain, facing a wide valley. This is not the appropriate location for frequent and rapid gunfire since it is a reverberant environment that will continue to cause unhealthy and nuisance noise pollution to the neighborhood and beyond. Reflected acoustic sound waves from gunfire will reach people from all directions and it can interfere with direct sound. I can appreciate the difficult balance decision that the board will soon have to make on this application. If it's considering the granting of this permit just for the sake to better control renegade activities, then may I suggest there be limitations. For club members, gunfire should exclusively be in fields 2 and 3 with a restriction on the number of shooters, example, e.g. 4, and the calendar days and times, example, during hunting season from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Thursday to Saturday. Sunday to Wednesday are days of peace. Thank you for your attention and consideration. Sincerely, Richard Nanarello, 133 Sand Hill Road. Okay. If you'd like to respond.
2 things that I'd like to say. One, the claim that things change exponentially is probably meant in a literary sense rather than
Not definition true of the word
mathematical
exponential, I agree.
sense, right. And I think there may be a little bit of tension between the fact that New York State licenses, allows hunting and has set the 500-foot limit, and that actually makes it difficult to achieve the town's property line decibel level. So I'm not quite sure what controls, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I wanted to kind of vaguely say without having a very clear statement
All right.
on the topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so we're going to have a conversation here, including our consultants. Just before we get to that, I had a conversation with a principal from Double JK Ranch just about procedure and just kind of what was going to come up tonight. So just that, there's draft resolution and, we're going to discuss what's going to happen. So I just wanted to let everyone know that publicly that, I was in a conversation with someone from Double JK Ranch about next steps. So, okay. So, I guess to the question of the noise ordinance and gunfire, I know that where I live in town, I hear gunfire all the time, and I don't live anywhere near what anyone would think of as a hunting club. So, I think we need to have some clarification about the noise ordinance and what that the state allows for people to shoot 500 feet from anybody else's structure, not even property line. So if they're 500 feet from my house, they can just be shooting off a gun anytime they want. That's correct?
Yes, so the environmental conservation law regulates the use of guns and also hunting of animals. And they have regulations which prohibit the discharge of a firearm within 500 feet of another structure. There was a case law, part of that regulation also prohibits crossbows within about, I think it's 150 feet.
I'm sorry, prohibits what?
250.
250
250, I think.
crossbows.
Crossbows.
Oh, crossbows.
A municipality in Long Island attempted to change that boundary for crossbows, and ultimately the court said you couldn't do that. You couldn't preempt New York State DEC regulations.
Okay.
So here, we're in a situation where the state allows hunting within a certain number of feet, and it's unlikely that the gunshot would meet the town's noise law, because that single shot at that time is going to be a loud burst of sound that's probably going to exceed the noise limit at the property line. However, based on this case, the town would seem to be prohibited from making any requirement that would not allow hunting within 500 feet. This is with respect to the deer hunting specifically. So there is a tension, as Yolanda put it, between New York State hunting regulations and the town of Dover noise law. And the hunting regulations would prevail in that particular case.
Okay.
This would be very different if we were talking about, a clay shooting range or something where you weren't hunting an animal, but shooting off firearms for recreation or practice.
So as long as they're shooting at a bird or some animal, then
Within the licensed time
the
period.
license time period, okay. Then what you're saying is the town, I mean, the planning board on behalf of the town, can't.
Yeah, I mean, this is based on one case. It's called Hunters for Deer, Inc. versus Town of Smithtown. It is a second department case, which is the jurisdiction within which the town of Dover is located. And it's from August 2020, so it's relatively new.
Okay.
There's not a lot of case law on this particular topic. If the town wanted, some of the options would be, to write to Attorney General or someone to try and get an opinion on which law would rule.
I would think the town board would have to do that. I don't know if the planning board can really
They'd
get
probably have to be involved in that.
contacting the Attorney General's office.
I mean, we could ask the zoning board to make a determination, but again,
Again, I'm just thinking of the noise ordinance, since we had our last meeting, and I mean, I was just at a property recently where you could clearly hear them using a leaf blower, which was certainly exceeding 60 decibels at the property line. So are we going to be banning leaf blowers now? Like, this is,
some communities do,
some communities do.
in Westchester specifically.
Okay. I mean, again, that's not what we're looking at here tonight, but
Right.
I'm just saying, if you start, where does it stop? That's, I guess, is the question. So,
Right, well, I mean, for
In terms
me,
of- in terms
for
of
me,
noise.
the issue is, do you have the authority to require a larger setback or to prohibit hunting
Right.
within certain areas of the property where it's otherwise allowed?
right. And the project actually goes beyond, it's not 500 feet from dwelling, it's 500 feet from the property line.
Right,
So it's really more than 500 feet from any dwelling. That was they put that out there as this is what they're willing to do. All right. So just on that point, any discussion?
I don't see any.
Okay. All right. Does any member of the planning board see anything further we need to discuss regarding this application or this draft resolution, which I'll read? Okay. Do any of our consultants have anything further to add? Okay. Okay, so that's the summary sheet that was prepared. Here's the draft resolution. Resolution to grant site plan, special use permit and erosion sediment control permit approval. Double JK Ranch. Whereas the applicant, WJK Ranch LLC, has submitted an application for site plan, special use permit, and erosion sediment control permit to legalize an existing hunting club and 3.5-acre farm pond on property identified as 39 Northeast Mountain Road in Dover Plains. Tax ID 7163-00-380110 in the RC and RU districts, collectively known as the project. And whereas the farm pond is shown on a plan entitled Pond as Built, prepared by CT Mail Associates, dated March 16, 2019, and the applicant has provided additional application materials, including an inspection and maintenance plan and emergency action plan, known as the ESC plan set. And whereas the project is further depicted on a site plan prepared by CT Mail Associates, C-101, overall site plan dated July 1, 2021, C-102, hunting fields and no shooting area, revised September 23, 2021, C-103, parking, water, and sewer plan, revised August 8, 2021, C-104, adjacent hunt clubs and property owners map, dated July 1, 2021, and C-105, adjacent agricultural land map, dated July 1, 2021, collectively known as the site plan set. And whereas recreational business uses are permitted in the RC and RU district, subject to issuance of a special use permit and site plan approval, and whereas on July 19, 2021, pursuant to Section 239-M of the General Municipal Law, the Planning Board referred the application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, which responded on August 17, 2021, that it was a matter of local concern. And whereas on July 19, 2021, the Planning Board classified the project as an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, also known as SECRA. And whereas the Planning Board has reviewed the EAF and application materials thoroughly, analyzed the information regarding relevant areas of environmental concern, both submitted by the applicant and gathered by the board through its consultants and the public, and considered the criteria contained in 6 NYCRR subsection 617.7. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing was opened on August 30th, 2021, and closed on October 4, 2021, during which all those who wished to speak were heard and written comments were accepted until October 14, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby adopts a negative declaration for the project, finding that the project as proposed will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. Be it further resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants the applicant an erosion and sediment control permit for disturbance as shown on the ESC plan set, subject to the following conditions. 1, submission of $500 for an inspection escrow for the town engineer. Be it further resolved that before the authorized official may issue a certificate of compliance, the Planning Board engineer shall provide the authorized official with a written statement indicating that all work authorized under the permit has been completed in accordance with the approved permit. Be it further resolved that the Planning Board makes the following findings pursuant to Section 145-63 of the Town Code. 1, the project complies with all land use district, overlay district, and other specific requirements of the zoning law and other local laws and regulations, and will be consistent with the purposes of the zoning law and the applicable zoning districts. The project is a permitted use in the district and complies with hunting regulation set by New York State. The applicant has included signage to demarcate the non-shooting boundary and has eliminated the practice shooting, target shooting, and clay shooting areas in order to reduce the potential for excessive off-premises noise. 2, the project will not result in excessive off-premises noise, dust, odor, solid waste, or glare, or create any public or private nuisances. While noise resulting from the use of firearms in designated hunting fields may be noticeable and undesirable, it would be temporary in nature and limited to the hunting season as defined by New York State law and the applicant's Class B shooting preserve license. During the permitted season, shooting would be limited to the fields identified on the site plan set, which would all be located beyond 500 feet of existing residential uses. Additionally, any noticeable noise would be limited to daylight hours. The Planning Board further acknowledges that the property is located in a rural area where hunting noises are expected and usual, whether from private hunters or from a hunting preserve. 3, the project will not cause significant traffic congestion, impair pedestrian safety, or overload existing roads. The membership club can only accommodate 12 active hunters at a time. The additional traffic can be accommodated on the existing roads. 4, the project will be accessible to fire, police, and other emergency vehicles. The board members have conducted a site walk and observed that the layout is accessible for emergency vehicles. 5, the project will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer system, or any other municipal facility. 6, the project will not materially degrade any water course or other natural resource or ecosystem or endanger the water quality of an aquifer. 7, the project will be suitable for the property on which it is proposed, considering the property's size, location, topography, vegetation, soils, natural habitat, and hydrology, and its ability to be buffered or screened from neighboring properties and public roads. The property is located adjacent to several residences. In response to public comments and to reduce the potential for injury to persons or property, the applicant has demarcated a no-shooting buffer with signage. The signage will be inspected for compliance annually by the building inspector. Excuse me. Should that say building department? I mean, 'cause it might be the code enforcement officer, not the building inspector.
Yeah, we can change that.
Building inspector / code enforcement officer. Hunters will also be provided with a map of the quote-unquote no shooting areas upon check-in. 8, the project will be subject to such conditions on operation, design, and layout of structures and provision of buffer areas as may be necessary to ensure compatibility with surrounding uses and to protect the natural, historic, and scenic resources of the town. 9, the project will be consistent with the goal of buffering non-residential uses that are incompatible with residential uses. Hunting clubs are not incompatible with residential uses, and there are 2 other hunting clubs in the vicinity. The limited hunting season, along with the elimination of practice, target, and clay shooting areas, will increase the compatibility of uses.
That says computability.
It does say computability. I know what you meant, but... compatibility. There we go. 10, the project will not adversely affect the availability of affordable housing in the town. 11, the project has been designed to comply with applicable site plan criteria. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby grants site plan approval to the project as depicted on the site plan set and authorizes the chair or his authorized designee to sign the site plan after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees and escrows. 2, approval of the wastewater system for the project by the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health. 3, revision of the site plan set to include the following note on sheet C-102, the quote-unquote no shooting signs shall be inspected by the building inspector / code enforcement officer prior to September 1 of each year. No shooting shall occur until the building inspector / code enforcement officer has confirmed that the signs have been installed in accordance with the site plan set. It shall be the obligation of the landowner to annually schedule said inspection. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby grants special permit approval to the project subject to ongoing compliance with the following conditions. 1, the no shooting signs, the quote-unquote no shooting signs shall be inspected by the building inspector / code enforcement officer prior to September 1 of each year. No shooting shall occur until the building inspector / code enforcement officer has confirmed that the signs have been installed in accordance with the site plan set. Okay. It shall be the obligation of the landowner to annually schedule said inspection. 2, there shall be no more than 12 active hunters using the site at any given time, though other members may be present on the property so long as they are not hunting or shooting. 3, the property and hunting operation must comply with all applicable New York State DEC regulations regarding its use as a shooting and or hunting facility. 4, there shall be no practice shooting area, clay shooting areas, or target shooting areas without further review and approval by the planning board. This resolution is being offered by
Me, offer it.
Member Roman, seconded by
Member Williams.
Member Williams. Discussion.
Just a question, if they fail to schedule their annual inspection, what's the consequence? And how is it enforced?
Good question.
The way it's set out is that the consequence would be that they are not lawfully operating their membership club.
Okay.
And it would, I mean, enforcement is the issue. Don or whomever may be able to calendar it so he knows every year that there was an inspection due. I'm sure the neighbors will be paying attention as well.
But so, what, I guess,
Well,
The next-
we put all these conditions
Right.
in, but it's,
I guess the next couple steps is,
the
if they don't do
enforcement
that,
is always the issue.
right. So, if they don't do that, then the building inspector or code enforcement officer would have to start an action in the town of Dover court.
There's two different actions. You could start an action in the town justice court
Okay,
for fines, or you can start an action in the county supreme court, the state supreme court in the county, for a temporary injunction to prevent them from using the site until they come into compliance. Usually, the way that municipalities do it is they file the action in the local justice court, they bring them before the judge, and they come into compliance instead of going through trial and having to pay a fine. I mean, that's the usual scenario, but
Okay?
there are other options. I mean, eventually, if there's non-compliance, I believe you can revoke the special use permit as
that's what I
well.
was getting at, how,
Let me look up your
what's the
code.
process for that? How many offenses? Is it the first, the third, the 22nd, et cetera?
Yeah, it would have to be more than one, and have to be after a hearing.
So when you say a hearing, you mean a public hearing of the planning board and?
Yeah, there'd have to be due process
Right.
for a step as drastic as that was taken. You'd have to have an attempt at enforcement first.
Okay.
So that would actually be another avenue for the building inspector or code enforcement officer, or potentially even just someone from the public to make the planning board aware of a situation, and then that would maybe necessitate the planning board contacting the building inspector or code enforcement officer to say, there may be this problem, please follow up.
Will that be on a rolling calendar, so to speak? Like if the violation happens within a certain time period?
I don't know.
So it's section 145-62, H2. A special permit may be revoked by the planning board if the permittee violates the conditions of the special permit or engages in any construction or alteration not authorized by the special permit. So you'd have to make specific findings, and yes, they should be keeping track of all the dates of noncompliance. I mean, if it happens once, 1 year, and then maybe once 4 years later, that could potentially be dealt with a notice of enforcement letter and then a discussion. But if it's an ongoing basis, then
62, what was it? Yeah.
it's 62H sub 2.
Under expiration, revocation, and enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Member Morosky, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay. Do our consultants have anything further to add?
No.
All right. Resolution has been, bring it back up. Resolution has been motioned and seconded. And as amended, as I did it with including the phrase code enforcement officer, every time you saw a building inspector, it's now building inspector / code enforcement officer. All right, so with that, resolution to grant site plan, special use permit, and erosion sediment control permit approval as amended. If the secretary please call the roll.
Chairman Courtine,
Aye?
Peter Morosky,
Aye.
Member Roman,
Aye.
Member Valano,
Aye.
Member Williams.
Aye.
Okay, this resolution is adopted by a vote of 5-0 with 2 absences. All right, thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have, under new business, on the agenda it says Dover Station Electric Substation, but I'm going to be calling it New York Transco, so there's no confusion with some other kind of station like a gas station or a transfer station or something else in the town. So we're going to say it's New York Transco LLC. And let's see, here we go.
Third one down.
Yeah.
The third document
That's it.
down. Yes, okay. All right, so you have a presentation. Please proceed.
Okay. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Sam Johnson. I represent New York Transco. With me today is Shannon Baxavanis, who is our communications lead, and Anthony Mirando, who is our outside legal counsel. If Dover Station is an issue with the name, we can certainly work with the town on that one.
Yeah, I get it. I just don't want it to be, it's New York, so it's New York Transco Dover Station project.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
just so it's clear to people, this is not a proposed gas station, it's not a proposed garbage, solid waste transfer station.
That's correct.
It is an electrical substation.
Substation. That's correct.
Okay, please proceed.
All right, next slide, please. So a little bit about New York Transco. We are a New York-based company that is focused on owning and developing electrical transmission facilities. The utility focuses specifically on bulk transmission, which is the high voltage transmission in the state. I will say that leading everything, safety is our first priority, and safety is the focus of everything we do, whether it's operations, maintenance, construction, whatever we're out there doing. Our projects are designed to enhance the clean energy development that's going on in the state right now, and we'll talk about that in a second. So what we have out in front of you here is our mission, what our projects are, the values we have, some of our other 345 kV assets or 345 kilovolt assets that are similar to what we're doing here. I'll let you read that at your own convenience. I'm moving on to the next slide, please.
Okay.
So really, what's the genesis of what's going on here? So New York State is doing a lot of build-out of new transmission within the state itself. They have a public policy rule right now that is a state statute that basically says that 70% of all energy that's used by 2030 in the state of New York needs to be renewable. And by 2040, 100% of that energy needs to be emission-free. So that includes nuclear and the other things that aren't clean energy directly. And the transmission network is the key to that. And I brought my own pointer, so if you don't mind, I'm going to
Sure.
point away here. So,
We don't have one for you to steal.
so these blocks down here represent the offshore wind
Okay.
that's being developed. There's a lot of solar being done up in this where and some wind. If you've ever been in lake effect snow, you know what that's all about in upstate New York. What this map does represent, though, is the bulk transmission grid in the state of New York. And the colored projects that are going on here, there's a green, there's a blue, there's an orange,
An orange, okay.
and a yellow, represent active projects that the state has granted as far as enhancing the system that's there today. Most of the system was built prior to 1980. Standards have changed and been updated. And a lot of the aging infrastructure is being replaced and will be replaced, continue to be replaced over time. The Dover station that we're proposing, or the Dover substation that we're proposing, is a part of this upgrade to the bulk electrical system. Next slide.
Just before we get to the
Please.
next slide, so just, is this would be the part that goes through the town right now, in all likelihood?
That is correct, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. And I don't see anything else going into Connecticut
That's a
anywhere
part of it,
along
yes,
the
yeah.
Connecticut border, so I'm presuming that's
This dot right here is Pleasant Valley.
Pleasant Valley. Oh, I know a lot goes into Pleasant
Yep.
Valley, okay. All right, let me get back to 100% here, or,
So
There we go.
73.
That's good.
Yeah, there you go.
and just to clarify, so 100% emission-free energy by 2024, meaning
2040.
2040, thank you. That's,
That'd be difficult.
that'd be great, but no. So is it, that's new energy or all energy?
So all energy.
All energy.
Yeah. So the consumption rate of whatever New York State consumes is in the, somewhere between 18 and 24,000 megawatts a day.
Yeah.
That they would like, the goal is to have all of that be emission-free. So whether that's solar, wind,
Hydro.
nuclear, hydro,
Yeah.
anything that doesn't emit, have emissions to it.
Okay.
It's by the way, this is leading the country as far as goals. New York is the leader right now.
Okay. And again, this is the state, not you.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct, yes.
Where's Cricket Valley Energy in regards to this?
So Cricket Valley is and I can't speak to how they fit into this.
Well, they have emissions.
I don't represent them. They are, by definition, they burn natural gas, so they would be an emission-producing facility.
Okay. All right. You did say next slide.
That's fine.
Okay.
I already turned my page, so.
Yes.
So what New York Transco is proposing is to install a new substation. And just to orientate where we are here, Dover Solar is right here. This is Cricket Valley, as we just discussed. The Con Ed right-of-way runs along here, and the Iroquois National Natural Gas Pipeline runs on the north side of that right-of-way. We're proposing a new public utility facility. It is part of the bulk transmission upgrade, as I did mention. It's necessary to control voltage and power flows in this area, and it's been identified as a needed resource to help control the energy and to support the voltage in this region. This is one of many projects across the state that are to do this. Route 22 is the north-south thoroughfare here, and Route 26, or Cricket Hill Road, is the
County
intersecting.
Route 26.
Yeah, County Route 26.
All right. And I know you have much better maps
and we can
than this to
certainly
show
pause here
us.
Yep.
Okay. Post fence, substation equipment. Okay. So just, yeah, I mean, you don't show any connection out of the property to the wider grid, is that?
Yeah, hard to see. There'll be two transmission structures right here that will connect straight across into the right-of-way.
Okay, so this is not going over Route 22?
That is correct.
This is going over County Route 26?
County Route 26, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here's a little better.
Site layout, okay.
So this is the slide I'm going to spend the most time on.
All right.
So the total property, which is basically this line here as it goes around, is approximately 16.3 acres. It is the former Dover Junkyard, if you recall, or maybe you don't, but back in the...
Our car on top of a giant spike
Yep.
30
Yep.
Yep,
years ago or whatever?
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
yep.
So back in the 60s, 70s, and very early 80s.
Yeah, 40 years ago, I guess.
That was in
Right.
operation, right?
Okay.
It's recently been a material laydown area when Cricket Valley was being built. And probably for most people, they know it as the Cablevision office, which is this particular structure down here.
Okay.
It-
So when you say laydown area, my understanding is that there was nothing done of the property across the street
No.
there. Right, they used just the building, not where the junkyard really was.
Right.
But, right. The cable building, right, okay.
Okay.
Yep,
And speaking of the building will remain after the project is completed. We're planning
Okay.
on continued using it as offices as we use it today. It's where my office is.
oh, so you have an office there, okay.
So other things about the site, the fenced area that we're proposing, which is this fenced area here, is approximately 5 acres. We will disturb approximately 8 acres in total for access roads and for some clearing to get in. But in general, the fenced area will be 5 acres. When the site is complete, there will be one entry point over here, which is double gated. There's a gate at this end, and then a secure gate here that you have to have a card reader or security access to get into. Currently, there is an entrance right here, right about here on 26, and right about here on 26. All three of those will be closed off.
Okay.
The existing fence that's there today, I'm sure you've driven by and seen the red fencing as you go down the highway.
Yeah.
That will all be removed. And the new fence that's installed will be set back another 30 or 40 feet, as is located, as you can see back here. The existing fence is somewhere up
Let me
here.
zoom in a bit more there, so. Okay, so the X's with the lines, that'll be
That's correct.
the new fence, okay.
Correct.
This dotted line is the property line, or
That's technically the property line, but it's about where the fence is.
about where the fence is, okay,
About where the fence is today.
all right. And is this the driveway to Cricket Valley Energy right here?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so you're looking to put a driveway south
South of there.
approximately how many feet south of there would you say that is?
It's about 500 feet, I think,
500 feet south?
south. And if you scroll a little bit down, I know you were talking earlier about the new driveway that Cricket Valley's putting in, and that is actually going in.
Sorry,
That's okay.
it's just a little finicky. There we go.
Yeah, it's actually going in like right here.
So just south of the driveway for the
existing
for the
building.
existing building. Okay.
So as far as this land in here, it's fenced already.
Right.
We plan no improvements to that land while we're doing the other parts of the project.
Okay.
Subject to any suggestions on landscaping for the front of the building or anything else that you'd like to see
Okay.
to make the building more compatible.
Okay.
So really talk about if you go back up, please.
Sure. While we're down here, so again, the existing building right here,
Correct?
there's parking behind the building and a little to the side
Correct.
there. Okay.
Yep.
And then, let me see, so new driveway, this is the gate, I presume?
So that is a basic swing gate.
Okay.
It'll be closed most of the time just to prevent vehicles from driving down.
Okay. And then this will be a sliding gate here?
And that will be more of a high security gate.
Gotcha.
with proper
So basically, you get through this gate and then it closes, and then you have to get through that gate to get in, actually?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see.
So a little bit about the substation itself.
Mm-hmm.
We're proposing 2 transformers, which are these 2 units here, and a spare that will be pad mounted but not wired up,
Okay.
if you will. And then the electrical equipment that sort of goes around it. So buswork, switches, breakers, and then a control unit right in here. This will be remotely operated. Con Ed will actually remotely operate this from one of their operating centers, and Transco will maintain it,
Okay.
or New York Transco.
And it's Con Ed because there are Con Ed transmission lines that
Correct.
go through the town?
That's
Okay.
correct. Yep.
Even though we are in the NICEAG zone, it's not NICEAG's transmission lines?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, and we can get way down a rabbit hole here, but that's the difference between the bulk system and
All right.
the local residential system.
Okay.
The bulk system can be owned by different
Right.
companies that are not in the service territory.
See. Where would we see a comparable substation somewhere within a 45-minute drive of here?
Probably wouldn't. This big, closest big is probably Ramapo.
Oh, okay.
Which is northern Jersey.
Sure.
Is this bigger than the Pleasant Valley one?
No. Is
No,
it?
you're right. I mean, that's a good
That's
point.
a
Pleasant Valley, this is
big-
much smaller than Pleasant
Yeah, I
Valley.
was going to say this. Yeah.
So Pleasant Valley is
so-
actually 2 substations put together.
If you go south on 22 by the Putnam Diner, there's a electrical substation there, right next to that restaurant.
Carriage House, I think?
Yeah, next to the Carriage House. I don't know, maybe you're not, I guess you're not familiar with it.
I am bigger than that.
Oh, okay. So it's bigger than that, but I mean, it'll look kind of like that,
Correct,
except you're going to put a lot of trees around it, so we don't really see it.
correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Please continue.
Yep, and we'll talk about that, trees in a second.
Okay.
So again, it's a passive substation. It will not be occupied, so there's no new septic, no new water demands or anything like that.
Okay.
The traffic to get in and out will only be for security and maintenance purposes, so traffic will be extremely low. 1 or 2 or 3 to 5 cars a week kind of thing. Basically somebody checking, make sure the gates are still locked and that kind of stuff. It will also have cameras everywhere and motion sensors and all kinds of things.
Okay.
So that the remote operations and security can be maintained. There will be no lighting at night. It is obviously wired for lighting, but not required unless there is a nighttime maintenance requirement.
Okay.
Which obviously we wouldn't schedule it unless absolutely necessary.
So if we're driving by at night and it's lit up, there's a problem.
Not necessarily a problem, but,
Okay.
but somebody's in there.
Doing what they're supposed to be
Changing another
doing.
light bulb or doing something. And some of the times it may be that security, some alarm got triggered from a security. One of the big issues we have is animals. That's why we build the fences so high. And we want
How high are you proposing the fences? need
9
to be?
feet tall fences with a foot of barbed wire above that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
9 feet
Nine
with a foot of barbed wire.
That would be chain link?
Chain link, and then we'd weave, where it's red now, we'd weave a green mottled pattern there, so it kind of blends in with screening that we have out there.
Okay,
I don't like the red either. It's
gotcha. So overall, the height of the fence would arguably be 10 feet, because...
correct.
Okay,
And the existing fences out there, they vary in height, but
Mm-hmm.
the ones right next to the building are 7 feet tall with a 1 foot barbed wire, so they're
Okay.
about 8 feet tall
right,
right now.
all right. And you're aware of our town code and fencing, so,
Correct. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
believe it's 4 foot is the height limit.
it's higher than that,
I don't
but
think it's 4, but it's,
it's not 10.
it definitely exceeds.
So anyway, we'll get to fencing at some point. You don't have to
Yep,
go over that now.
absolutely.
But just, it's possible that you're looking to make a fence higher than what the town code allows for, and so that might have to be something we further discuss.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right, please continue.
So a lot of the,
6 feet.
a lot of area that we've outlined here and sort of left as green, and then as much as we can along here, this is existing vegetation that we're not going to disturb at all.
Okay,
In fact, we're trying to maintain as much buffer, existing
Sure.
natural buffer as we can in all the places.
and you're not looking to build in the south and eastern part of the property out of the goodness of your heart, or because
Isn't that wetland?
it's wetlands?
So there are wetlands
Okay.
down there. It does connect to the Great Swamp and the Friends of the Great Swamp property down here.
Okay,
We've done some extensive wetland mapping in that area and have avoided it on purpose from a design and construction.
okay. So the white area that we see, again, east and south of there, that's where you're going to disturb. The black line is where the fence is.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then
So the idea is wherever it's green is basically you're not disturbing that.
correct.
Okay. Please continue.
Yep. So the difference being this is not disturbed, this is disturbed, but then planted with
You're putting
grass.
planting.
And then the landscaping plan that we have surrounding the entire property on the,
Just be advised that we do fall into that Harlem Valley limestone soil, so it does require a unique group of plants that'll survive under these conditions.
yep, I appreciate that, thank you, yeah. Yeah, you can see when you drive by, there's some species that are certainly thriving and some that aren't. And we're hoping to get all the ones that do thrive.
Okay. Just since we're talking about it, why does there seem to be a conspicuous gap in the vegetation right there?
No particular reason.
Okay.
This is the existing entrance that goes in there. This
Yep.
is, right in this area is quite a steep slope.
Oh, okay.
That goes up there. We certainly can fill it in on the lower areas. It just, from a visual perspective, it wouldn't help is because you're looking up into the station at that point.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, for me, it looked like something that invites someone to walk in between trees, so.
Yeah, and certainly we wouldn't want that. Like I said, once you get up the top of this hill, the fencing's pretty tall as well, so.
Sure.
And there is a 20-foot setback from the fence to the trees itself, so that you can't climb a tree and jump over into the station to prevent those kind of security type issues.
Right.
That's a design standard.
Okay. Do people try and climb the trees and jump over the fence for these places?
No,
Okay. Just
not on a
wondering.
normal basis, but
All right.
having been in high school and college, I've done
Sure.
crazy things.
People do dumb things. Okay. Okay. So just, so there's an empty space here and here, that's just for,
So we're going to talk about the transmission,
oh, yes, okay.
right? So
Okay,
this
so
is
that's within
basically
the
what's
cell.
called an A-frame. It's the exit and entrance points of the station.
Mm-hmm.
They would lead out to one transmission structure here and one transmission structure here
On that hillside?
on that hillside, yep.
Okay.
And then the conductor would then span across these smaller trees over here onto the right-of-way, which is just off the top of the drawing here. So
So they would cross the where? We'll
Yep,
have
so we cross
competing
right-
pointers.
right-
So
right in
here?
here, yep.
Okay.
dueling, yeah.
Dueling pointers, right, okay.
What height do they cross at approximately?
The conductor itself, it's going to be around, and I can get you the exact number. I'm going to say somewhere in the 130 feet tall.
Okay.
Would be, so there's an existing distribution line.
Right.
That's there. We need to, by code, be enough above that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as well as the design to span into the right-of-way to connect into the existing line that's
Right.
there. That all sort of drives the
height.
the heights of what
So
we have to
it's
do.
unavoidable that there'll be, what, 2 towers that people will see? Okay.
Correct. 2 towers within the station itself, yes.
And then are you building on the other side of the road as part of the connection to?
So there will be some construction that has to be done on that side.
Okay.
Because that's a permitted use already by Con Ed, we have to go by their permit.
Right. Does that need to be part of the site plan if you're still building something as part of this?
So it's
Off the
kind of a
property?
separate permitting process.
Okay.
Is it in the right of way or on private property?
Right away only.
It's in the right of way,
Yeah.
okay.
It's within the right-of-way.
So, yeah, there'd be a separate permit for utility lines within
Okay.
a right-of-way.
But is that something that would come before us?
I mean, I think we should have the work identified as part of the plans.
So it's, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, just go to the microphone so everything picks it up.
My name's Anthony Miranda. I'm an attorney from Cuddy and Fader, here with Transco. So the infrastructure that's north of the property, as you know, is a 345 kilovolt line that's owned by Con Ed and Con Ed's property. It's referred to as line 398. That's an existing line that's subject to the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission by virtue of a certificate they've obtained. So anything to do with that is done through the Article 7 process with the PSC.
Okay.
So that's not something that's within the review of the town. But for example, in our visual analysis, we were clear to identify any future upgrades that would be there so that you would have a full picture of what that would look like.
Right, so I guess what I'm asking is are the towers on this property connecting to the existing towers, or are there going to be also new towers across
There's an-
Cricket Hill Road that will need to also be built to then connect to the towers?
So there's one interconnection pole
Okay,
that happens right across in the existing right-of-way
okay,
as part of the Con Edison line 398.
So a
okay.
new interconnection pole.
Yeah,
But your contention is that it would not have to be part of this application?
it can't be really. It's subject to the PSC jurisdiction.
Okay.
So it's,
So why is this not subject to the PSC jurisdiction?
well, it's a substation that's, so, sorry, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
Go on for it. Well, it's a great question. It's effectively part of a local review of the project is not part of that because it doesn't meet a technical threshold under the Article 7 process.
Okay,
So it's a little bit of a gray area, but it's a conservative approach.
So, teach me here, because I don't deal with the PSC very often. Doesn't one of the agencies have to consider the whole project under SECRA? The poles and the facility?
Yeah, and we can go into this further, after tonight. I certainly don't want to get bogged down in this, but the Article 7 process is an express exclusion from seeker. It's not even
Oh,
an
okay.
exempt. It's actually excluded by statute
I
under,
see.
under
Okay.
the ECL. So effectively, it's being covered by that, and
I
that's
see.
contemplated by statute by the state.
okay. So if they need to put in that pole across the street, if they have to cut down a tree and an Indiana bat lives there, that's tough for the bat, or?
No, that's all part of that process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, there's.
But if you have to cut down some trees and Indiana bats might be in those trees, then that's something of the planning board's concern.
That's part of Con Edison, yeah, on our site.
I'm saying, on your
On the
project.
project site,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, that's part of, so that's part of the PSC Article 7 process.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, really briefly, I'll just add that
sure.
for Con Ed to get that permit in the first place, they had to abide by all the same rules of that we're going through now. So Indiana bats, bog turtles,
Right.
timber rattlesnakes, anything
Yeah.
else that's there. So they have the same exclusions that we would have as well. And we, by joining that permit, would have to abide by that as well. If you actually want to go back one. So those,
Sorry, it's just,
That's okay.
there you go.
so the two structures that would here, there'll be a new structure put in right here.
Oh, that's why you have the fence within the fence?
Correct.
Because there's going to be the two towers are in this space
That's correct.
with its own fencing. Okay,
And
gotcha.
this blob here and this blob here are the two existing
Towers,
towers. And this is
okay.
the access road that you can see from 26 that goes over to the
Yep,
Vincent's
yep.
property. So we'd be sort of in between those two. The new structure would be in between those two.
And so those two towers would connect to this new tower,
That's correct.
and that new tower would connect to your property?
That's correct.
Got it.
Exactly in line where the conductor is today.
Question, is that new tower, that's replacing the lattice tower that's there now? I think I saw that in the visual.
Right, so this structure here is going to be replaced, which is the lattice tower that's there will be replaced with an H-frame structure,
Right.
which is literally an H.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. The new structure that we'd be putting in here would be a steel monopole, which is, just like,
What they put up for the Cricket Valley Energy.
exactly, but
Okay.
without the eyebrows and other things
Okay.
that are part of that. And then this structure on this end wouldn't be touched.
Would
or
stay the same.
If it is, would be, continue to be a lattice.
Okay.
So there's several views that and they'll probably get to it, or I can get to it, and we can pull it up. They do show those improvements off-site
Mhm.
as part of the visual simulations, so. just making
Right.
it-
Okay. Yeah, we'll continue. I mean, wanna go to the next one?
Yes, please. So if you zoom out.
Yep.
So this is the Route 22 access.
Yep. So this view is the red fence as you come along. This is basically on Route 22, basically across from the existing building that's there,
Right.
looking northeast. And if you go one more. So this is the proposed new location of the driveway. You can see the structures in the background here, and then the landscaping that we're proposing to put in. This is leaf-off conditions, so a lot of these existing trees would remain, and then we didn't include it, but the leaf-on, those would fill in, obviously, for
Sure.
6 months of the year.
Let's see. So again, these are not the same spot.
That's exact
That's the
same.
same spot.
That's the same. Oh, I see. Oh, okay, see, I thought you were saying this is where the current access to you're saying this is where the new driveway will be located?
That's correct.
I got it. So the building's only just a little south of, I see, okay. And the existing entrance is up here off of, the existing entrance to where the junkyard was is over here?
correct, yes.
Okay, got it.
And the sign does move, which is probably causing some consternation there.
Well, yeah, okay,
So
that was part of it.
we've had initial consultations with the DOT about this.
Okay.
And about the entrance. We're
Right.
actually filing something tomorrow with them.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all part of the,
And you said it was about 500 feet from Cricket Valley Energy. And so how many feet is it from the driveway for the building?
about 500. is
About
it?
500 feet also, okay.
Question on the simulation, is that what's gonna look like at the time of CO, or is that gonna be a year later,
So this is actually 5 years after.
5 years later?
Yep. We do have other simulations in between. Part of the project will be that we will plant more mature trees because this is an entrance type area to begin the project. But excellent question. So back in here is some of the infrastructure. This
Right.
single structure here is a lightning mast.
Okay,
You can see it's just got a very skinny point on the top. Those range to about 90 feet at the tallest.
okay.
And then in the background are the transmission structures. This is the A-frame. You can sort of see it's got a frame across there, and that's one of the structures, the other structures that go out to the right-of-way.
Okay.
There are a series of these that are contained within the application. We didn't put them in the presentation itself, but certainly they're there.
Okay, We can talk through some, because I have some comments on how they can be improved a little bit on the presentation side.
Okay.
When I get to my memo, we can walk.
Yeah, so
Yep,
let's
absolutely.
have you finish and then,
Okay.
so we've kind of gone over this, right?
Yep, so we went back, so we brought this up again.
Okay.
And effectively, so that's the landscaping that you were looking at.
Right there.
In that last thing. We're landscaping all the way down the driveway. One of the reasons we do put a curve in the driveway is to create a spatial block so that you can't physically look straight into station. That's just
Sure.
or an S-curve is another way of getting
Yeah.
around that. And then really, because we're not disturbing anything back here, it doesn't need landscaping per se. There will be a retaining wall up along here just due to the site elevation differences. The entire site is going to be, I think, 485 feet will be the elevation across this entire area, and it goes up about 5 feet
Okay.
from here to here.
But relatively flat in where you have it
Correct.
needs to be, sure.
Correct. Yeah, the site peaks about here in existing conditions, and then flattens out this way and flattens out this way.
All right.
Notice your driveway's 30 feet wide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for bringing the equipment in and out?
Basically, it's the equipment delivery is the big, we will have a temporary access point here as well. We're working with the DOT to get that as well, which is more of a straight shot to get in, but some of the equipment will need to come in this way.
And so, I'm just trying to, so we're looking at this,
Yeah, you're basically
Again,
standing,
that's-
you're standing right here.
that's there, and you're looking kind of this way.
That's correct.
That's why we're seeing the towers here and then across.
Yep.
Okay,
And then we've
Got
got other simulations from various points around that show different views.
okay. Next slide.
Right, so really, this was a general introduction, rather brief. Obviously, we're very open to questions. I know the town planner has come up with a very detailed memo
Right.
that we'd love to review with him, and we're looking forward to further conversation, really, and with the town about the project
All right.
and the process.
Thank you. So you have a local office at the old Cablevision building, right?
Yep, it's not an official office. It's
Just-
where I come.
You own the building and you're
Yep,
using the space.
I come there a couple times a week.
Okay.
The headquarters are in
Right.
Hudson, New York.
Where?
Hudson, New York.
Okay.
I will tell you, as a company, we've remained remote
Mm-hmm.
since everything. But anytime we meet in Hudson, that's no problem at all.
Okay. And is New York Transco like a new business, or is it a wholly owned subsidiary of some other business?
It's been around since 2014.
2014.
It is a subsidiary of other utility companies within the state of New York,
Okay.
and it's basically their development arm,
I see.
if you will.
Okay. So Con Ed being one of them.
Con Ed is one of them. yes.
Okay. All right. And then just others around New York State.
Yep, National Grid, Con Ed, Central Hudson, and Iberdrola.
What was the fourth one?
Iberdrola,
Oh, okay.
Orange and Rockland.
Gotcha.
No, that's part of Con Ed. Avon Grid, I'm sorry. NYSEG.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we do have a project website. We have an 800 number. That's anybody can call, and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
As soon
So
as-
that's the email address. You're saying the project website is nytransco.com?
The Transco website is nytransco.com, and we have a special
The Dover project?
that'll get the Dover project.
I mean, that looks like an email address.
I'm sorry, that is an email address.
Yes.
If you want to email
Okay.
me, Or you want to
We
call
could
me,
email you there or call you.
Right,
But specific to this project, how would someone look up?
NewYorkTransco.com,
So they go to New York, nytransco.com.
That's correct.
Not NewYorkTransco.com.
NY.
Okay.
Yes.
That number is forwarded directly to Sam's.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, so Anthony, I don't know if you,
I don't.
Done. Yep.
I just wanted to add that, we're excited to be here. We did have a chance this afternoon to quickly look at Aaron's memo. So, we're happy to continue the discussion tonight, but we certainly welcome any steps the board can take, by virtue of any of Aaron's recommendations to start that process.
Okay, thank you. First, we're going to see if any members of the planning board have any additional questions. I thought everything's been good so far, but I'll just go down the line. We're not going to go individually, so,
No. Not yet.
okay. Whomever would like to go first.
Oh, I was just going to add that the height of the fence is limited to 6 feet because it's within the setback.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one issue that we're going to refer to the building inspector for, and that the height in the district is 35 feet.
The height of building.
The height of a building or structure.
Structures,
So, by its nature,
Right.
can it comply with that 35-foot requirement? And so the applicant is going to have to provide their argument to the building inspector / code enforcement officer in a similar situation involving the solar farm.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take this off, sorry.
That's fine.
Involving the solar farm, he had determined that the New York State building code and electrical code overrode the local zoning requirements because in order to construct that facility, they had to have a higher fence. I believe it was 7 feet with a 1-foot barbed wire in that case. So we'll see.
Doesn't this also come up with Cricket Valley Energy too, in terms of height of fence and the height of the buildings, and I mean,
That and also
Right.
the deer farm.
oh, right.
Didn't we have to get a variance for the deer?
And
Well,
just-
that was, what wasn't in the setbacks, I don't think.
Wasn't in the setback either.
Right, so,
So I guess just some clarity to that.
But there is some, I mean, this is not the first time this has come up,
No.
is what we're saying. Okay.
So of the things to move forward after this, we're hoping, obviously starting with the seeker lead agency circulation. But one of the things we look forward to is following up with the code enforcement officer. We did, I think Aaron mentioned, we submitted a letter a couple months back just to sort of get some clarity. The two zoning questions we were looking at were the height issues, just like Victoria pointed out. Just to be clear, our property is interesting because we have 2 front yards. And the code actually talks about 4 feet in a front yard, in that particular location. So it's a question of just if we can have that 9 feet. The other question, again, just like Victoria mentioned with the 35 feet, but they're not structures per se or building, they're equipment that effectively has to go over that 35 feet. But we've articulated that to the code enforcement officer, and we will
Right.
definitely follow up as soon as possible with that.
So just in what way are you saying you have 2 front yards?
Because
Around the corner.
the corner property.
we're on a corner property.
Right, so your address is on Route 22 or on County Route 26.
Route 22.
For,
So you
for-
have one front yard on Route 22.
Well, for purposes of the zoning law, though, the zoning measures its setbacks
Right.
on corner lots from both.
Yeah, it actually makes it more stringent on us because because the CO zone actually has a 150-foot front yard and others, so we actually.
No side yards, two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
two
there's no,
front
yeah,
yards.
exactly, there's no rear yard.
Two fronts, no.
Yeah, so for zoning purposes, it actually, was a little bit more stringent. But that's the.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Existing building is 75, so it's
Yeah.
existing, it doesn't meet the 150
right,
right now. so.
right. But in the front, and just, in the front, even, correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, if I'm speaking out, the front yard, even I think our proposed fencing is outside the 150. So not that it has to be because it's permitted by code, but my point is that it's trying to be pushed back as far to meet that 150 as we could.
Okay. Okay, so Attorney Potter, you were finished?
Yeah. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Planner Werner?
Would it help just to go through the memo one at a
Sure.
time? I mean, some of them are procedural, we could skip them, but quite a few things in here. So, the first two, just acknowledging that this is a special permit, because public utility facilities are permitted in this zone, subject to special permit, as in 4510. It is a major project, so it has to meet the town code requirements for that, and also there's erosion and sediment control as part of this.
Mhm.
Just number 3 is just noting that since it is a special permit, you have to submit the written narrative about how it's meeting the findings. But I usually like to wait, see that until we have a good sense of all the secret issues, because a lot of them are kind of environmental issues that are part of those findings. So
Mhm.
as long as the applicant's made aware of that and they know they have to get that in, that's what that comment's about.
Okay.
Number 4, there's no ARB for this because there's not a building. Just make that clear. Just a question, number 5 was asking about the arrangement. I guess the property owner is not Transco. I wasn't clear about that. And there's a lease that's going to happen.
We currently have a lease on the property with an option to purchase.
Okay.
And the application had the owner sign the letter of the agent, I think, so.
Okay.
Clarity. I think you mentioned number 6, you kind of cleared up this question with your presentation, about the existing building, any plans for that in the future, or you're just going to keep using it for office? It sounds like that's the case. Just keep in mind that you might, if there is anything proposed for that, you would have to come back.
Right.
Number 8, number 7 was just, relationship to Cricket Valley. You also cleared that up with your presentation. It's really not tied in. It's going to be tied into the Con Ed right-of-way. Okay, number 8, just acknowledging the SWIP that Joe is going to look at, and the SHPO requirement that triggers, which they've already reached out to SHPO and with the Phase 1A that recommended no additional work, and SHPO actually agreed with that. And now you're working on architectural, it sounds like, I guess, what the existing building, just to make sure it's not historic? Or, yeah.
So SHPO's rules have changed recently, and now we have to do a survey within, I believe it's a 1-mile radius of the boundary of the property and identify all eligible and, or already on the list. And then, does it have any impact?
And that went into your visual, it looked like you kind of accounted for those in the visual assessment to see if they would be contextually conflicting?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay. Number 10 is just acknowledging that it's going to be subject to the GML 239M. We have to refer it to the county, which I think is part of the resolution that we have drafted for tonight. 11, just acknowledging DOT's involvement, and also the county highway is going to be involved for 26. And to some extent, the town highway department too is going to be involved in this. So we have all 3 as referring for SECRA tonight. Number 12 is just mentioning that they didn't really have to do a full EAF for this because it wasn't a type 1, but they still did, and that's fine.
Scroll down.
Oh, sorry.
13, this is just out of the town code for wetland and watercourse protection. Just acknowledging that they have to get a JD with the Army Corps for any unregulated or wetlands on the site. It sounds like that's been started as of June. I don't know if you've heard back yet. I know they can take a while. And I think there's,
No kidding.
A couple things have happened since we started that process is, I don't know if you're aware, there was a lawsuit down in Arizona that threw the rules out that they're currently working under, so we have to go back to the 2008 rules, which is a whole separate application. So we've just finished putting that all together, and we'll be submitting that to the Army Corps this week.
Okay.
Yeah, a little convoluted way to get there, but we're there.
let's just keep the board copied on all that stuff moving forward. There's another one. Done a lot of work, before coming in. There's additional comments on wetlands further down when we talk about seed growth. 14, I just thought the fire department might want to look at this. I know it's not going to be manned, but there's gated access, and if there's an issue, it is a substation. It seems like they might want to review access on that. Curious if, maybe this is for Ryan, would they get a copy of the key code to get in if they had to? Is that, how would that work?
Yeah, I mean, that, yeah, maybe they would probably look to have a Knox box installed. But again, given that it's an electrical substation, it might be more of, we're going to hang back. I can't speak just to be clear, I'm not an officer in the fire company. I can't speak for the chief or the president. But my guess is going to be that, look, we would look to hang back because we're not looking to get electrocuted. I mean,
Need new hairdo, right?
as one of the firefighters, that would be my concern.
I think having them
So.
included for secret circulation is a starting point, and then the applicant meeting with them and reporting back.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's certainly a meeting is warranted, I would say. And it's usually, the chief and some other officers, past chief of the fire company, so.
And we put them down as an interested agency just to inform them and
Yeah.
plan to meet with them and get some feedback.
Yep.
Yeah. It's always best to just send them a copy of all the plans and they look them over. And, they want to make sure that, if they need to get in there, the fire truck can make the turning radius, which certainly could with that width of a road, and not going to be a concern, I think. But, certainly, site access could certainly be a concern. So that would be something you would bring up, or they would bring up in the meeting.
Sure, someone could get injured on site.
Well,
You
that's
have
true,
to
right.
send vehicles
And an
in
ambulance
as
has to go
well.
in there.
Yeah, and we
We have to send in manpower or something.
We designed a large part of it to be able to, so a large truck could turn.
Okay.
The fire truck where you...
Yeah, that'd probably be, a concern, is making sure they could turn the fire truck around, so, yep.
The town building department has requested any meeting with the fire department that they are included within those meetings, since they're the regulatory part of the
Okay.
town for those. So.
Yeah, again,
When you contact the fire department, just make sure you run it through the building department as well, is what I'm saying.
okay, I mean,
So in consideration of all these procedural, agency-related comments, 15 just kind of ties it together. This is who we think we need to refer to, as either involved or interested.
right.
Cover those. Draft Victoria has.
Right, so SHPO's part of
They've already reached out.
Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation, SHPO, okay, yeah.
Office of Parks, Recreation.
Public Service Commission.
They've already reached out and been consulting with them, so this won't be anything new to them when they see it. But they're on the list.
But we don't actually, but we can talk, we don't actually send it because you have to make a Chris submission.
No, just for
Yeah.
a secret.
And I would think, it's not going to be an interested or involved agency, but I would think, and it sounds like maybe you've already started some of this, is that I would think we would get a letter from like the Frogs group, just because of the proximity to the property. Like anytime we do stuff near, anytime there's like something going on near one of the water courses in town, we expect to get something from the Housatonic Valley Association. So just these different non-interested, non-involved agencies, they're just, and I guess, NGOs, you call them, when it's national, international. But, yeah, non-governmental organizations that, certainly have a vested interest, and I think most people seem to care, what they think.
Sure. And we
Okay.
have
So,
had-
you know, and it just, again, Frogs is literally right your neighbor, right? I mean, that's the, yeah, so. I would
Yeah,
think
we
they have
actually
something to-
presented to their board.
Oh, okay.
Several months ago, or 2 or 3 months ago anyways, and plan to reach out to them again.
Okay.
And I will say the DEC has been on site and validated the wetlands that we delineated.
Okay.
So we're well down that path, both with the DEC and with the Army Corps.
Okay, so then moving on to the site plan, there's a few things on that. 16 just procedural.
Mhm.
17, just clarifying that, yeah, 150 feet is the setback, and they are meeting that with the equipment. It's not a building, but again, they're proposing their equipment 150 feet from both front yards. The existing building that's there is 75 feet, which is pre-existing, it's not changing.
Mhm.
I think just a note in that table, it was a little confusing, like, I don't know if you have a copy of the site plan. Might be worth noting that that 75 foot is the pre-existing condition for that building.
I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
It's not on that yet.
Right now, it reads that you're not complying, if you look at the chart on the site plan.
We'll let it know. Got it.
Right, all these dots is the existing building and, yeah.
Yeah, so that comment's really on the bulk table that's in their site plan submission.
Okay.
And 18 is just focusing the board's attention on these two things. I know Pete usually has a lot of comments on landscaping, he's already kind of mentioned tonight.
Member Morosky loves landscape.
Yeah, so.
We all do.
Yeah, so
Mostly.
those two sections of the site plan requirements are important for this, access and landscaping. Then 19 is just talking about the preemptive government restrictions, or standards on height that we've already talked about. So that'll be a follow-up with the code enforcement officer about that. Again, just keep the board copied on all this correspondence.
Okay, so at this time, we don't feel as though we need to involve the zoning board of appeals in anything yet in terms of, because the building inspector, code enforcement has to
He
say
has to
something
make
first
something
and then.
first, yeah.
All right,
Okay, so
any further?
Yeah, for the SECR submission, the Part 1 EAF, just a few cleanup items for the Part 1. I think adding Army Corps for the federal category of approvals is fine to do, because you already have reached out to them and they are involved.
Mhm.
I just noticed that for E1A2, for existing land uses on page 9, you don't really acknowledge the residential. You have two houses kind of nearby, one's right across of Cricket Hill Road. Just make that clear. And then for E2N, for significant natural communities, if you do the mapper, they show up to the west of the site. They're not actually mapped on the site. So just making that clear. I know the mapper will check yes, even if you're near them. So just make it clear that they're not on the site, but they're in the site. Again, the Great Swamp is another one that's nearby. Sounds like I'll talk about that a little bit more for bog turtle. So here on the species section 23, the tree clearing window is incorrect in the EAF addendum, so just clear that up. It's October 31st to March 31st.
Would we have November 15th?
You had October 1st to March 31st. Just missing a 3 for October. For the bog turtle, yeah, so we want to see, I think the board should see all the correspondence so far. And also, you know, the issue is not just habitat on site, but off site, and you're near the Great Swamp, so the argument could be made that, you know, turtles could traverse the site because it's nearby, right? So
Mhm.
that's just something that they usually look at. So again, I'd just like to see, I know the board will, the correspondence on that
That's
with,
exactly what the discussions we're having with them
right now. Okay, good.
Across the street at Cricket Valley, they made, one of the conditions DEC made was having a class for all the workers on bog turtle, what to do and what not to do.
And we will have the same, we'll have construction fences that are double lined.
Yeah, double line, but more importantly, and they had a requirement to have a a protocol and a licensed person to, in case one is spotted. But during the entire time we constructed over there, 3 years, we never found one.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the correspondence you'll see, we basically said that our site is not conducive, it's the wrong type of wetland, but you'll see that.
Yeah, we'll review it. I mean, we have, so a lot of these comments came from our natural resources group, AKRF. So that's why, we want to see, keep that chain going. We want to see everything that you get back from them. Yeah, same thing with the rattlesnakes, just, a copy of the educational pamphlet, and then all the correspondence again with the state. And I guess for the fairy wand, I'm not totally familiar with that species, but
I actually thought you may have made that up.
I thought it would do. What is-
What's fairy wand? Right, that's what, yeah, right.
What is a fairy wand? Is it a bird?
It's a plant.
It's a plant.
Of a plant?
It's a small flowering plant.
What is it?
All right.
Yeah, so it wasn't clear what methodology was used in that
There was a field survey,
survey.
but we'll describe it.
Yeah, just,
Okay.
you can respond directly to that, or however you want to do it, just give us more data for that. And then for the cottontail also, same thing, just need a little more information about habitat. Then on wetlands and watercourses, 28 is kind of a repeat of, the town's code, which talks about Army Corps and DEC are involved in this stuff. Sounds like they're well underway with that, so, again, we'd like to see all the correspondence. And ultimately, once the JD happens, you get a signed survey, and that's something that's going to be provided to the town too. Okay. Yeah, 29 is just a result of the Army Corps consultation. We'll see what comes back. If they find that it's not in their purview, then they don't need a permit. That's all that's noting. But we're not there yet. On the noise study, unfortunately, we didn't get to do a full, we're requesting a little more information to fully review it, specifically the CADNA, if you can give us a copy of the CADNA model. And also, if you have cut sheets for the equipment, our folks like to look at that to see the sound data associated with, like, the manufacturing specs for that, to complete their review. But there was one error they found, or, minor typo, I think, in one of the tables. They didn't flag anything of concern in this preliminary review, but they do run CADNA. It's part of the work we do, and they just want to look at the file.
Aaron, I have a question.
Sure.
Because the construction is going to last a significant amount of time, should the noise study also address noise during construction?
Sure, I think they did submit at least from what I saw in the file, a blasting plan, a blasting protocol for if they need to do blasting. But that was the only construction-related
Data.
Noise analysis, I guess you can call it.
And, the construction, if we're unclear too, I think the construction standard, correct me if I'm wrong, is expected to be under 12 months, but actual civil work and things like that is much less than that. So
Mhm.
in terms of overall scale of construction, probably not that substantial.
But sorry, you have to go to the podium. But just, what is just, you have a general timeline right now you could give us?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I should have mentioned that in the presentation. So if all goes well, we'd like to start construction in the fall or winter of 2022,
Oh, so over a year from now?
over a year from now.
Oh, I
right?
see.
So there's a lot of other things that got to fall into place.
Sure.
But, and that would be in the corrected October 31st number for tree clearing on the Indiana
Sure.
Flats. So November 1st. And as Anthony mentioned, first thing is tree clearing, then the site grading, rough
Right.
site grading happens. That's the heavy noise activity.
Right.
Where the potential for blasting and things like that would
Okay.
occur.
But, so the tree clearing wouldn't be able to then start till April of 2023?
It would start November 1st of 2022.
Can start in that.
You can only clear in the winter.
Oh, so that's right, you can only clear in the winter.
Only
Right.
clear in the winter, yep,
So you start November 1st of 2022?
correct,
Got it, okay.
correct. So
You'd have to stop, that's what I'm sorry.
yeah, we'd have to stop.
You'd have to stop by
March.
in March. Okay,
We will be complete by,
right, sure.
we're positive. But the heavy civil work, which is where the vast majority of the noise is, the bulldozers, the diggers, that kind of stuff, that would be done in the first 3 to 4 months. And then the rest would be the electrical installation, which you'd get some of those backup beeping things, you know, with the JLGs and,
And on Cricket Valley, we requested to use, there's a special attenuator you can place on the backups that muffles it some.
that's fine.
And then also for
Very much so.
Wingdale Materials, we,
Thing.
in that swampy area they had to build.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Right.
asked them to do the same thing, because those beeps really go far.
Oh, yeah. But they're supposed to, it's a safety thing.
Well, sure, yeah, but,
But yes, yeah,
Certainly
I understand.
Consider that here, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's 16 acres and the whole construction area is gonna be about 8, is that right?
right.
Correct, so the disturbed area would be 8 and the fenced area would be 5. The one thing I didn't tell you is when it's going to be done, and that would be December 2023, fully commissioned in service. So the last 2 months to 3 months of that is just testing, on-site testing, and then making sure that the whole system operation can still perform. So all of the construction be finished probably within 11 months.
So does this get turned over to Con Ed, or?
So for operational purposes, yes, it gets turned over to Con Ed. It actually gets turned over to New York ISO as well. But
Cricket Valley, the portion when we were turning the portion of that over to Con Ed, a high level of security came with that turnover, where the town was no longer allowed to go in.
so once it goes, once it gets energized and the real testing starts happening, it'll be the same unless you're escorted in. It's the kind of thing that I won't,
Concept, okay.
yeah, I won't be allowed in either.
You either, okay.
Quite frankly, because I'm not in the operations side of the
Okay.
company. I love substations when they're being built because you can go touch everything. But once it's live, you don't want to go anywhere near it.
They don't want you touching things at some point.
Members of the town, we're going to want our building inspections pretty much done prior to that.
Correct, correct. And we'll be coordinating all that as we go forward, for sure.
Okay.
So the noise study is an operational noise study is what they submitted. They didn't really do an analysis for construction period noise. I mean, I think it would be beneficial if the project description maybe included a little more about the phasing and the duration of each, and if it doesn't already. I don't think I saw that. That's helpful.
I think given the proximity to that one house,
Yeah.
This avenue.
because let me just, that's what I want to go to earlier.
Something that the board could have them take another look at in the noise study. They can have a construction section if they want. They don't talk about, if that's a concern, you know, to address that.
Okay, it's a good idea.
It is a temporary issue, but we do have receptors nearby.
Right, because you have this house, and then you also have, I mean, it's a little farther away, but this house here. And then these 3 houses over here.
Several up there.
Yeah, beyond that, you're getting towards the Vincent Farm or houses on Cricket Hill. Or,
But the sound seems
High-power
to
transmission
wander
lines.
right up the road to that.
yeah, I mean, there's not much residential, but there is
So it sounds
some.
like that's something that you would like them to add to the noise study?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, just, you got 1, 2, 3, potentially six houses within, relative close proximity. I mean, how far is, sorry. From say here to this house is what, I mean, now you're over half a mile, but you got 6 houses within half a mile, I'd say. And then there's another 2 here, so 6 to 8 houses within about half a mile. So.
Would it be acceptable, obviously it's a first meeting, so we're going to be a lot of back and forth.
Sure.
Would it be acceptable to sort of get a little bit more detail on the construction phasing time? And then maybe talk to Aaron about that and see where
Yeah.
potentially evaluating noise would fit in? I don't know that a whole construction noise study would be warranted, given the duration, but we're not opposed to it. We just want to be efficient,
Yeah,
so.
Right.
send that description. We could work internally at AKRF with the folks that review this stuff, and we could come up with, we can have a call about it, about exactly what might be appropriate to do.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, the next few are just on the visual.
Mm-hmm.
It might be helpful to pull up the full report if it's available.
The, under their application?
Yeah, it's appendix, or attachment F. Okay. I mean, in general, I'm in agreement with how they selected the locations. I mean, they did a pretty detailed narrowing down of, they went out a certain distance, they found historic resources, they found scenic areas identified by the state, and then they trimmed it down based on field work to see, can you see the site from these locations? And they figured out that you can see it from a total of 6 locations. So they have viewpoints 4, 12, 14, 15, 28, and 39. So I have just a few comments as we can go through. The one that I think would be beneficial for all of them, this is under 31A. So maybe we can pull up the first one that has a proposed condition.
Okay.
Right there. Is that existing? Go
From
up.
the,
Okay. So like what we like to do, I mean, just, I don't want to be nitpicky, but it's a firm that does this a lot too. We always find it helpful to, on the proposed view, highlight the new stuff, right? Highlight what's different in this view from the previous, or else you're scrolling up and down to see what's different.
yeah. So again, this is from the southern portion of the fields at the middle school, high school.
Right. Right, so there's that lattice tower that's visible there, right, in the existing, that's going to disappear and proposed. With a structure that's somewhat comparable in appearance from that view. But I think it's, it's useful to just highlight that area of what's, what's new in this view that's not in the existing. That's just a global comment for all of them. I suggested using different colors, right? You can use a yellow highlight box for what's going to be new, and then, anything, even if you're being screened by trees, the approximate location of where it is behind the tree. It's always useful. Yeah, that was my point, in that existing utility infrastructure that is visible but will remain unchanged within the proposed views, such as the Con Ed towers, the Cricket Valley exhaust stack. You can identify it in a similar way, just with a different colored scheme, right?
So, just, sorry to interrupt. So like in this view shed, I mean, there's this pole here? I mean,
That's about it.
shouldn't you be showing the lines going across Cricket Hill
You can
Road?
see some behind the trees, you can see some equipment too.
That's behind the trees here.
If you go back up,
In this particular, you can't see it, but
Right.
you can use the
Yeah.
applications you send or zoom in. It's a little more you can see. The crossing of the road is actually just behind where this is. This particular photograph.
So you picked a photograph that would not show the lines going across the road?
In this particular case.
Okay.
There are other ones. But for instance, this one shows the stacks.
Okay.
That's the after version. You see those.
Busy going back and forth.
Okay. So, please continue, Planner Warner.
yeah, so number 4 was just, I brought up that lattice tower, if you can just show that. Then, if you go to 28 and 39, viewpoints 28 and 39 proposed.
Point 28 and 39. 28?
Yeah, so these are where we talked about this a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So this is showing the 5-year growth mark, right? You mentioned you had some in between, like maybe it might be useful to show those stages,
Absolutely.
like at planting and then 5 years and then maybe beyond. And I also thought it would be good to have maybe the heights called out on this view of the plantings at the 5-year mark, and then a note about how tall they'll be when they're fully grown.
That planting will be helpful for the town, so when we go out to CO, we're not looking at the 5-year ones and saying no.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because Don and I go out, building inspector and I go out, and we're looking at the 5-year plan, and we look like, there we're going.
Yeah.
So was 39, was that the other one?
Yeah. Same thing. Right, here we have the evergreens at the 5-year mark.
Mm-hmm.
How tall are they? How tall are they going to be when they're fully grown? And then maybe also show at planting image too. That was it. I mean, that's the extent of my comments for now.
Okay.
I have recommendations to, we could circulate this. I think the EAF is complete enough to circulate. Classify it as unlisted, coordinated review. You can refer it to the county. But I think we need to probably get the escrow a little higher than normal for this, because there's a lot of coordination and a lot of stuff to review.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And a site visit.
was there an objection?
I don't know, we could throw a number out there. I know I think for that Route 22 commercial project, apartments behind it, we set it at 10 to start, 10,000, just to make sure we cover.
Oh, where the fire was 3 years ago.
Okay.
For
Quesada.
this project.
Yeah. Okay.
That'd be my recommendation to start.
So, just so we know what we're doing, is that,
Mm-hmm.
I think we deposited 3 to start? So would it be 7 more, or?
If you started with 3, I didn't know that. I thought the initial is 1,000 usually, but they did 3.
I'd have to go back and check.
Yeah, to get it to 10, whatever it takes.
Got it.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Then the site visit, I think, obviously is needed.
Right, yeah, site visit. All set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make another comment? I wanted
Sure.
to remind the board that this is a site plan for the whole site, including that existing office
Yep.
facility. So I just want to remind you that that is part of this plan and proposal.
Okay, thank you. Engineer Berger, anything further to add?
Looked at the preliminary, looked at the SWIP and the grading, seems to be in compliance, I'm gonna do a little bit more looking at it, but it was very thoroughly done, so I want to compliment you on a very good SWIP. But very, very well written. I'll have some additional comments at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, having heard the comments from our consultants, any member of the planning board have anything to add at this time?
Just one comment.
Yeah.
The fairy wine that they were talking about is Camelarium luteum, which thrives in rich, moist, acidic woodlands, so you're probably not going to find it here.
They didn't,
Okay.
but-
Good. I didn't think so.
Okay. Thank you, Member Morosky. Anything?
Can't hear them, they're not talking
Brother?
to the mics at all.
All right.
In regards to the ferry one,
Yeah.
we did do a survey and we did not find anything on site. And we'll provide
Thank
the,
you.
I think you asked for the methodology, so we'll provide that for you.
Thank you. All right, so we do have a resolution to classify the action and some other things. We also want to set a site walk, and then we need to, I guess, vote on setting the escrow. All right?
Yep.
All right, so we'll start with the escrow motion to set the escrow at a total of $10,000 to be replenished when it gets down to $2,000. $2,500? Okay. Motion made by myself, seconded by
Second.
Member Roman. Discussion? Dalton's? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, the motion passes 5-0 with 2 absences. All right, looking at the calendar, we find that having site walks on Saturdays tends to work out best for most members, as everyone works. And also, given the time of year, by the time people are getting home, it's dark. So, how does Saturday the 30th work for anybody? Does it work for you? Okay. 30th of October, yes, to be clear.
Give me a second.
That's fine with me.
Right out there, let me check my own calendar. We didn't say the time yet. I know you want it to be 6 a.m., but
Well, it's still dark at 6.
That's true.
Seven's good.
all right. Let me just hear from Member Roski, Member Williams. Like it's fine for both.
30th is
Both
fine,
of you.
yep, earlier in the day.
Earlier and better, right?
As of now, yes.
All right. What do I want to say, 8 a.m.?
8's good.
8 a.m. 8 a.m. on Saturday.
Yep. Take a nap after.
I'll send my kids your way. They'll wake you up nice and early.
Let's see.
So go here, go home, grab a kid, go to softball or hockey or something, and
Yeah, I raised kids already. I'm done with that.
All right, so
so that.
it's been a while since we've had a site walk. Do we vote on having a site walk?
You don't need to vote on it.
Right, that's okay. So yeah, so we're saying it's October 30th, 8 a.m. I guess what we'll do is because we'd want to see the property with the building, and then obviously the property north of that.
Can I suggest that we meet in the parking lot?
Parking lot of the property with the building. Okay, so you'll be there
I'll be there.
before 8 to have the gate open, and we can just drive in. And okay, is there access from where the building is north, or you have to go out on 22 and then? Okay,
We'll have to walk the 500 feet along 22, so
that's
I'll
fine.
give a safety briefing. We'll have to wear high visibility vests.
Okay,
You can choose if you want to wear steel toe boots or not. There is a lot of junkyard material
Sure.
still there,
sure. Okay.
tree roots and things like that.
All right.
But I will-
And I know that fence has been impacted by something. I mean, you can open up the gate and get in, or
a tree fell on it.
tree
yes.
fell out. Yes, but I'm saying you can still get in through.
Still get in
there.
through that gate
Okay.
there. And I have keys to the other gates.
Gotcha.
We do keep it locked
Yeah.
for security
All
purposes.
right. No, I was actually there a few years ago because the fire department had like I think a wire down nearby, and so we were looking to see if there was any, brush fire or something.
Yep.
So we got around the fence, but we didn't want to touch the fence because we didn't want to get electrocuted. So we had to do a lot of walking around. But
We're meeting.
8 a.m.
We're meeting in the parking lot of
parking
the
lot
existing building.
of the existing building, yes.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And so it'll be upwards of 7 planning board members, 3 consultants. I mean, anybody else that would look to go?
I'll get a box of Joe.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Be clear
We
that
can
this,
discuss.
you're not offering the planning board a bribe, right? Okay.
Anthony's been there already. He did step site.
All right. So Saturday, October 30th, 8 a.m. I put in my calendar 1 hour. Thank you. All right. So I'll now read this resolution. Then we'll move on. Resolution classifying the action, declaring intent to serve as lead agency in a coordinated review, and referring the application to the code enforcement officer for a determination. This is
Do
for
we need to put that up on screen?
Transco substation. Yes, thank you. Okay, Transco substation. Whereas the applicant, New York Transco LLC, has submitted an application for site plan, special use permit, and erosion sediment control permit approval to construct an electrical substation with transformers and, what is this? Appurtenant,
Appurtenant.
pertinent equipment. Thank you. It's been a long day already. Collectively known as the project, a property located at 2238 Route 22, identified as tax parcel number 7061-00-698172, known as the property in the CO zoning district. And whereas public utility facility uses are permitted in the CO zoning district, subject to site plan and special use permit approval, and whereas the project is depicted on a site plan entitled Dover Station, prepared by Power Engineers, dated June 22, 2021, last revised September 14, 2021, sheets DVB-E0-101, BS-1, DVB-E1-101, DVB-E1-102, DVB-C1-101, DVB-C1-102. Oh, I'm really regretting my policy of reading everything. DVB-C1-103, DVB-C1-104, DVB-C1-112, DVB-C1-113, DVB-C1-114, DVB-C1120, DVB-E2 DVB-E2-111, and DVB-E7-1010, collectively known as the site plan set. And if I said anything wrong, you're going to change what you call it. So. Whereas the project is required to meet the minimum standards of applicable state and federal regulations, including a requirement for a minimum of 9 feet fencing around the substations with 1 additional foot of barbed wire and transmission poles and supports that exceed the town's height limit of 35 feet. And whereas the applicant has submitted a full environmental assessment form, also known as an EAF, dated September 28, 2021, pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, also known as SECRA. And whereas in accordance with SECRA, the planning board is required to determine the classification of the proposed project. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.2 AL, all actions not identified as a type 1 or type 2 action are unlisted actions. And whereas the project is located within 500 feet of New York State Route 22, and whereas pursuant to Section 239-M of the General Municipal Law, projects located within 500 feet of a state highway must be referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for a report and recommendation thereon. And whereas the Planning Board of the Town of Dover has performed a preliminary review of the application materials, and whereas the project is located within or adjacent to the Great Swamp, a critical environmental area. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby, 1, classifies the project as an unlisted action under SECRA, 2, declares its intent to serve as lead agency in a coordinated review of the project and authorizes its secretary to send notice of its intent to all involved and interested agencies. 3, directs its secretary to refer the site plan to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development pursuant to Section 239-M of the General Municipal Law. 4, refers the application to the town code enforcement officer for a determination regarding the need for any variances for elements of the project that exceed the
Height.
height standard set forth in the zoning law. And just to be clear, below that we have involved and interested agencies, Town of Dover Highway Department, Dutchess County Department of Public Works, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, New York State Department of Transportation, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, New York State Public Service Commission, Army Corps of Engineers, and the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company.
So, I mean, just to be precise, the Public Service Commission and Army Corps are not involved or interested agencies, but it's been recommended to send it to them.
Okay. All right. We're not done yet. There's no, usually, there's no bathroom facilities, like this time we go to the Department of,
No, the bathrooms are in the existing building.
okay, all right. All right, so this resolution is being offered by
So move.
Member Villano, seconded by
Second.
Member Roski. Discussion. Did you want to say, someone want to say something? No? Sir, did you want to say something? Yeah, that's fine now.
No, I was just, clarification with Victoria as well. The hose company, the Ketchum Hose Company.
Yeah.
Is that an agency or is that?
No,
just
it's
kind
not, it's a private fire company, but it's the fire company for the town of Dover.
Okay.
The town of Dover, unlike most towns, is a fire protection district. So the town board every year votes on hiring a private fire company. It's just every year for the past 100+ years is the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company. And
Got it.
that's not going to change, I imagine.
Okay.
So, but they are, so in other towns, it would be
Yeah.
the fire department, which is its own governmental agency.
Okay.
This is a private company that the town of Dover hires for fire and other
For all
emergency
intents
services.
and purposes, it serves as the town's fire department.
Right.
Okay. I
But
was
yeah,
just clarifying.
technically, it's not an involved or interested agency.
Okay. Thanks. I was just confirming.
Okay. All right, anything further on the resolution? Okay. All right, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of resolution classifying the action, declaring intent to serve as lead agency in a coordinated review and referring the application to the code enforcement officer for a determination for Transco substation, all those in favor, will have the secretary call the roll.
Chairman Cortine,
Aye.
Member Borowski,
Aye.
Member Drummond,
Aye.
Member Valano,
Aye.
Member Williams.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution is adopted 5-0 with 2 absences. All right, so we're going to have the site walk on the 30th. Our next meeting is November 15th. I mean, typically we do have a follow-up meeting after the site walk just to discuss things we saw and just, sometimes other stuff comes up. So we would look to have you on the agenda for the November 15th meeting. Okay. Anything further for Transco? No. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have a discussion for Harlem Valley Homestead. At our previous meeting, we discussed having a board discussion regarding what's been discussed a lot is about a negative declaration, a positive declaration. We're going to have our planner and our other consultants guide us through that discussion. Since then, some changes have happened with the Harlem Valley Homestead project. I guess I'll start by reading a letter, and then if someone wants to, from the Harlem Valley Homestead, would like to get up and speak, that'll be fine. All right, so this was sent earlier today, I believe, right? Okay. Dear Chairman Courtine and Town of Dover Planning Board, as part of our ongoing commitment to being transparent and to listen, engage, and be responsive both with the planning board and the community, I'm writing to share updates we are considering about our project. While we believe the plan in its latest iteration is allowed by zoning regulations and has been through extensive environmental review, we are open to making revisions that address concerns we hear from neighbors and community members. To that end, we wanted to share a list of changes we would like to make in response to public comments. From an impact standpoint, all of what we are considering is in an effort to further reduce impact. So offering these changes is consistent with how we've operated throughout the process. We are and have been open to adjusting the plan based on reasonable questions and tangible community concerns. Some past examples include removing an overflow parking area, moving a code-compliant leach field to address concerns about it being proximate to the river setback, reducing the number of proposed lodging units from 80 units as allowed by density calculations to 48. We're now proposing to make further reductions/modifications to address what we've heard from the community. Going forward, we will be presenting a plan that considers removing 450-person events. This is a major reduction in use and scope. There's also a major reduction in loss for us as to the sort of programming we might run. Yeah, we heard the neighbors' concerns, and we are willing to make this significant concession. Limiting scope of use in event location A, North Field. This is also a major reduction in use and scope with ramifications for our business, but again, we are proposing it in order to address concerns we heard. In this location, we are considering reduce maximum event size from 200 to 50 people, have no amplified music, have no electric event lighting, and no generators. Capping quantity of 200-person events at 18 per year. This is a major reduction in potential allowable use. We understood some community members were concerned that we would host 200-person events constantly. That was not our intention, so we are putting forward this cap on the total number of 200-person events per year. Reduce recreational use of the 10-mile river by guests. We've heard concern from some community members that our guests would add too much recreational use to the river. As such, we are reviewing the potential of adding a small on-site swimming pool to reduce potential overall use of the river. And then relocate lodging to reduce impact to adjacent view sheds. We believe we have found a way to locate saddle cabins, seasonal cabins, and the bunkhouse, also known as the hive, in ways that address some of the concerns we heard and still align with rural siting principles. In summary, we believe that we believe both the secret process and the public comment process are working as intended. The public comment period, in combination with your rigorous review and good questions, have served to point us towards possible revisions and reductions, which further demonstrate our willingness to be responsive to community concerns. On November 12, We propose to submit plans to the planning board that account for the above adjustments and reductions. In the meantime, we believe there is no need or ability to make any determination of significance as the definition of the action is shrinking in response to public comment. We would respectfully ask that the public hearing currently scheduled for November 15 be adjourned until the board and the public have a chance to review our forthcoming project revisions. Thank you for your consideration. We look forward to our next meeting, and we stand ready to present the above summary to the board on October 18, which I just did. Your neighbor, Josh Viertel. Okay, so we got that letter from Mr. Viertel. And just again, for just disclosure purposes, I was contacted by Mr. Viertel last week just for, again, procedural questions, which I seem to be getting more and more about just kind of what comes next. And so him and I spoke, and then him and I spoke again, and yeah. So again, the scope of the conversation was just about kind of procedure and what would come up next. And Mr. Viertel asked, well, what about this and what about that? And I said, look, I'm one of 7 planning board members. I can't start, discussing what I think should or shouldn't happen. So, and that was the end of the second conversation. So there's that letter. And there's one more thing. I did receive a message from an officer in the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company. They did meet with the applicant last week. I think it makes sense to just hold that off until another night as to the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company's thoughts, just because it might be just part of a broader discussion that we would have when, the consultant's planner and the applicant and whoever else might also be here. So, were you part of that meeting or no? I was not. So you wouldn't even be able to, yeah. So I think it would be best if, someone that was involved in that meeting from HVH would be here to just discuss that further. So we'll just hold off what the J.H. Ketchum Hose Company discussed with them till some future meeting. So if you'd like to, you're welcome to speak or not speak, or.
Chairman, assuming that, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So for the record, it's Neil Alexander, Cuddy and Fader, on behalf of HVH. If you're inclined to follow what we'd requested in the letter, I think it's self-explanatory as to our perspective. So we're hopeful, and we think, that's the spirit of the intent here. HVH has always tried to be, civic-minded and community-oriented, from the get-go, and it's trying to hear what others are saying and, consistent with its business plan, make as many adjustments as it can while remaining viable as a project as well.
Sure. Okay, and just so I'm clear, so on November 12, we propose to submit plans to so the idea is that, because there's a public hearing scheduled for November 15th, so you're asking that it be adjourned to a future date or adjourned?
No, I mean, I think that's sort of, so if you wanted to do a date certain, that's fine. If you wanted to say, wait till you're ready, I mean, you're going to need, it's sort of, the classic, you need to see what we're going to submit to know when it's ready to have public comment again.
Right.
So we don't have a preference. If you wanted to adjourn it
because
to
we have
December or to January, it probably makes, if we're submitting, I'm thinking out loud at this point.
Yeah, sure.
We're submitting to you in October. I don't even know if you want us back
Well,
in
so
November.
I think the November 12th date in the letter is in reference to, that's the deadline for the December 6th meeting.
Right.
So we wouldn't even have you on the agenda then on November 15th.
Well,
So-
we have to, the hearing's scheduled, so we have
Right.
to open the hearing and continue it to,
Well, it's been continued to
been
that date.
continued,
So
right.
what I'm asking, I guess, you as our legal counsel, can we just now postpone it to a future date?
the best practice is on the 15th at
Open
your
it,
meeting,
close
just to open it and tell the public that, you're adjourning it to such and such date. If someone's there and they want to speak, they can speak, but
Uh-huh.
best to continue it to I think a date certain is better so we don't all lose track of it.
Sure.
And so the town doesn't spend time and money
Right.
renoticing it.
Right.
So January.
That's what I was going to get.
So
to.
at the meeting on the
Sorry,
15th, we
it's-
could open it.
It could be 2 months after we
Sure.
submit before it's really ready for
Okay.
a public hearing. If we're submitting on the 12th for December 6th, you may say you have additional questions.
We want to review it in December, the public hearing could be in January, the public
Right,
needs to review it in December, so it's in January, okay.
We're all thinking the same way here.
All right.
We know we're going to have to get back to a public hearing,
Mhm.
but I think there's work to be done, understanding the lesser included project, even though it is lesser included. But there's work to be done in staff comment memos that obviously will be written about how, the lesser included is just that and
Right.
and quantifies it for you.
Okay. So again, excuse me, legally, you're thinking that we would open the public hearing on November 15th. Any members of the public, because it is a public hearing, wish to speak. Given what's going on, I would just limit whomever to 3 minutes just to give their
I
up
would
or down
even,
opinion, I
before
guess, on
they,
whatever.
before
but-
they speak, I would even make an announcement that the project is changing.
Right.
And
So what you're speaking on might not even be a concern? Yes,
Correct.
okay. So, and then we would potentially just close the public hearing and then...
make a
just-
motion to continue the public hearing until sometime in January or February. is
Okay,
what-
so we could just pick a January meeting and then, that's
I
fine.
think there's probably one meeting in January with Martin Luther, I don't know how it falls, but we should also then, at the next meeting, consider setting the board's calendar for 2022.
Yes, that's true. Okay. Right, so, I mean, I guess we probably have a meeting January 3rd, well, let's see, we'd have meeting December 6th, a meeting December 20th, right? And then a meeting January 3rd, but then not another meeting till February 7th? Okay. We'll see how it goes, maybe, I don't know.
It makes sense to go to February 7th for the
Okay.
public hearing.
And then, I mean, maybe, we could look at the town calendar, maybe it makes sense to have a meeting just in general with other stuff going on for January 24th or something, because from January 3rd to February 7th is 5 weeks, that's kind of a long time.
That's because there's holidays.
Right, on the 17th, yeah, so. Okay,
We're all thinking the same way.
all right, so, we're not voting on anything tonight?
Nope.
Does any member of the planning board have anything to discuss?
Nope.
Really? No, okay. Our consultants?
I
Okay,
mean, look forward to seeing the new plans.
agreed. All right, that's the end of that discussion. Thank you. You as well. All right. I guess, Madam Secretary, I guess still keep this sheet of paper in there because it's
I'll
relevant to
leave it
when
in
we
the
have that
folder,
conversation, when we
yeah.
finally have a conversation. Thank you.
He's going to have a folder this there.
All right, so next we have the minutes. Which are, I have somewhere in here. Here we go. Thank you. All right, so here we have the draft minutes from our meeting on October 4, 2021. Special public hearing, Double J.K. Ranch, Harlem Valley Homestead. Need a motion to accept the minutes. Motion made by
So moved.
Member Roman, seconded by
Member Williams.
Member Williams. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Minutes are approved by a vote of 5-0 with 2 absences. Our next scheduled meetings are November 15, 2021, December 6, 2021, and, I'm correct, right?
20th.
December 20th, 2021, okay. The deadline for the, what did we set as the deadline for that? 'Cause does Thanksgiving get in the way? No, for the meeting on the 20th.
Oh.
We'll have to check the deadline on that, but there will be a meeting on December 20th. The deadline might not be the 26th, because that's,
December 3rd,
I mean, December 3rd.
the cutoff.
All right, so, is there any other business before this planning board? Okay, seeing no further business, I'll make a motion to adjourn, seconded by
Second.
Member Villano. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned.